I would like to call to order the Town of McCandless.
Are we ready?
Thank you. The Town of McCandless regular business meeting for November 25th, 2019. Council apologizes for calling to order late, but we were in executive session over a personnel matter. The invocation and pledge of allegiance will be led by Councilmember Swider.
As we gather here today and enter into the season of Thanksgiving, may we remember all those who serve our town, from EMS to our firefighters, police officers, town staff, and council. We especially give thanks to our 3 council members for their dedication over the years and commitment to serve their wards. May their lives be blessed and full of happiness as they end their term. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve last month's minutes of the committee meeting, agenda, regular, and special business?
So moved.
Second.
There has been a motion and a second. Are there any changes that need to be made? Any addendums from council? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Under announcements, I have 2 short announcements. One, I'd like to remind everyone that Saturday will be Small Business Saturday. Please shop local and support our small businesses in McCandless and the surrounding area. The other is that the great announcement, the town and Franklin Park Little League received a $2,500 gaming economic development fund grant to refurbish Wall Park, which we announced at the last meeting. But it was such good news I wanted to say it again. And the town received a total of $685,858 in a multimodal grant. I'd like to thank our hardworking staff, Bob and his staff, for applying for these grants, and as well as Senator Williams and Speaker Turzai for supporting our grant applications. Number 6, I'd like to call to order the public hearing on ordinance tentatively identified as ordinance number 1493, an ordinance approving the 2020 Town of McCandless budget and setting the real estate tax rate for 2020 and other revenue sources, and setting certain appropriations for the 2020 calendar year.
Ready?
We gotta get better, AV. Yeah, definitely. It's in the budget. It is. It's in the budget. Everybody approved the tech in the budget.
Yes. Just a brief summary. I believe that there were copies of a summary of budget material.
There was the pre-copy, so it's reduced by 33.
Okay. What you see in front of you currently is the consolidated budget, which shows a general fund budget of $17,438,250. That actually was reduced from the initial budget proposed by roughly $30,000, but removing a position that we originally had contemplated. The Transportation District Fund totaled $132,700, and the only expense there will be a transfer out into the capital fund. Capital Improvements Fund totals $4,939,900. That's a substantial increase over what originally was proposed, because we wanted to reflect the state grants that President Zachary just mentioned, that will be receiving, and the projects that we'll be undertaking as a result of those grants. The assessment fund totals $391,000. We expect $65,000 in assessments and $12,000 in non-tax revenue, which is essentially interest rate or interest earnings. And the potential of that $391,000 expenditure should we receive a bill from PennDOT for the sidewalk work that was up at the Wexford Flats. The state highway fund totals $904,500. Those funds are used primarily for street paving purposes. Next year, and those funds will be transferred into the capital improvement fund to help offset some of the costs of the street paving program. Total expected budget for the town is $23,806,350, and we expect to have a $7,858,000 projected fund balance total at the end of fiscal year 2020. And if you turn to the next page, revenues. Revenues are largely in keeping with prior years, reflect actual earnings and average earnings that the town has seen over the last several years. So Tricia and I have made adjustments accordingly. Again, there is no tax increase, so the millage would remain in effect at its current levels. Next page, general fund expenditures. The one change in this, as noted before, is under town administration. We've reduced that budget amount to eliminate a position that originally was proposed, that we have adjusted duties and salaries accordingly, and we're able to, we moved some into 402, and we adjusted Tricia's salary around to reflect more of the actual work that she's performing. Under public safety, we've made some adjustments. We've reduced or eliminated a off-road or quad vehicle that originally was proposed because of other opportunities or available resources that we have, and that shows current staffing levels that would remain in place, and the purchase of new mobile radios for the entire department and replacement vehicles. Go to the next. Sorry that one is so small. We'll try to enlarge that a little bit for you. Like that. Public Works. The biggest change here, we have a couple of vehicles that are being replaced in Public Works Administration, and the largest change is in line item 446, stormwater management. We've added $100,000 in additional stormwater work to try to address various problems that are occurring throughout the community that may not be related to the typical MS4 work that the town has undertaken, and yet nonetheless are having a negative impact on some of our residents, from water flow from one property to another, or from the streets onto the other properties. We hope to be able to address that. The other significant change in this is that there is money put in place for a position to oversee the stormwater functions and the compliance with the MS4 permit that we are required to comply with. Remainder of the budget is largely in keeping with prior years and shows some small adjustments for cost of living increases and such. The Capital Improvement Fund, you'll see the slightly grayed area off to your right, the 2020 proposed budget. We have a program that we would want to put in place over the course of the next several years, placing signage throughout the town. It'll be a combination of welcome signs or informational signs in the effort to try to get information out to other parts of the community in a new way. The sidewalk connectivity plan is one of the grant-funded projects that actually the next two, the 406 and the 278 are grant-funded projects from the multimodal funds. There's $250,000 budgeted for town hall improvements, which is a combination of HVAC repairs that are much needed in order to balance heating and air conditioning in the town hall and hopefully improve energy efficiency as well as security upgrades. Under Public Works, we're budgeting for a new Public Works truck and salt spreader. We're doing another significant amount of work for storm drainage improvements that's largely related to our street paving program. We'll be lining a culvert at Brittany Place that is in much need of repair. Doing over $2 million in roads resurfacing. Doing another $160,000 in storm or detention pond facilities, maintenance and upgrades. The goal there is to improve and enhance the capacity of the existing stormwater ponds to reduce the downstream flow during significant rain events. And we'll continue our program of inserting inlet filters into strategic locations that reduce the amount of sediment that runs off of the streets and properties and into the storm system. Under Parks and Recreation, the plan, we've budgeted $133,000 for the installation of a fitness court. $90,000 of that money is is paid for through sponsorship and a grant. And that money is shown on the revenue side of the capital improvement plan. We show the $250,000 for the Wall Park work that will be done, $150,000 in tennis court resurfacing. It is much needed, and we plan $40,000 worth of work on the trails associated with Wall Park and the Rachel Carson Trail. The last page shows where we are in the budget review process. Tonight we are holding our public hearing, December the 9th. Council will review the comments that we hear tonight on the budget, and they'll also be doing salary reviews. The plan is to approve the budget, or hopefully approve the budget on December 16th.
So the whole point of a public hearing is to hear from the public. Bob's done a great job of summarizing this very large, complex budget for our town. As you know, in the last couple of meetings, we went through all of this even with more detail. So this is the council is here to hear your ideas or your comments as well as a public hearing. So if there are any comments from the public at this time, please come to the microphone and we will be glad to hear those.
Hi, good evening. Marcia Caliendo, Abbey Lane. On the funds transfers out, 2.1 million. Is that the excess? Is that
That's last year's excess that will be transferred to the capital improvement fund.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment? what a token to Bob and Trish that they presented this so well that, that's why I say, if you give people the information they need, they don't have to ask questions, right? So very nicely done. Close the public hearing for ordinance 1493. And now we have the public hearing on the ordinance tentatively identified as ordinance 1494, an ordinance reappropriating certain amounts of money within the general fund 2019 budget.
And Trish is going to handle this one.
This must be the hard stuff.
Good
Delegate.
evening.
Delegate.
Good evening, council. As discussed during previous meeting, ordinance for the reappropriation of the 2019 budget is part of the charter and the municipal code, and any item that is expected to exceed $5,000 or 10% of the original budget classification is necessary to be reported on. Most of these items are expected to be covered by other budget items that will perform under budget or excess revenues. But as part of the municipal code, we are required as management to report on them. If you have any questions on anything that's listed, I'm happy to address, whether it be reasons or expectations. Otherwise, I'll leave it open to the public.
Any public comment about the reappropriations? Based on experience and history, we make out the budget the best we can, what we think things are gonna cost, based on kind of what they've cost. Sometimes we're a little high, sometimes we're a little low. So then at the end, you take where you have more, you put it where you needed it, and it all balanced out this time. So that's what this, isn't that the bottom line, Trish?
Yes, ma'am. As an example, insurance costs
That
came in
was-
higher than expected.
Right.
So those are one of those items that we expect, whereas salaries may come in lower in other areas.
That's the English version. All right, hearing none, we close the public hearing on ordinance 1494 and move to, get our solicitor back up here, and move to Finance and Personnel Committee. Councilmember Powers is not here today. Councilmember McKim, would you be willing to read those motions?
I would.
Thank you. Finance Personnel.
Item 8A1, move to approve check listing number 11 dated October 10, 2019 through November 6, 2019, totaling $795,199.04 as submitted to each member of council and posted on the bulletin board and the town website.
Second.
There's been a motion, a second. Are there any comments from council? Hearing none, any comments from any citizens on the checklist of bills? Okay, there's been a motion, a second. Time for comment. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item A2, move to adopt resolution number 27 of the 2019 series, a resolution approving the application of Richard Frank Lipchek to acquire vacant lots 713-H-93 adjacent to their property on Whitmer Road under the Allegheny County Vacant Property Recovery Program as adopted by the town.
Second.
There's been a motion, a second. Any comments by any members of council? Any comments or questions from citizens concerning this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item A3, move to adopt resolution number 28 of the 2019 series, a resolution recommended for adoption at council's regular business meeting to amend the town's existing master fee resolution governing various town fees and charges.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Mr. Town Manager, would you like to just give a little short summary on that?
Sure. There were only a couple of small changes to the master fee schedule for the coming year. And the one has to do with the fees associated with wireless antennas.
Small
wireless
facilities.
facilities, thank you, I knew I wouldn't get that quite right. And that's in compliance with the FCC regulations to ensure that we were in good shape there. And the other had to do with adjustments of the fees associated with rental of the ball fields so that we could offset some of the costs for electrical, for the lighting.
We're trying to break even on the lights with the fees that we charge.
That was it.
Anything from council? Any comments from citizens on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Proceed.
Yeah, go ahead.
Item 4, move to appoint Charles Conley as a member of the Town of McCandless Personnel Board for a 3-year term to commence January 1, 2020, and expire December 31st, 2022.
Second motion.
There is a motion and a second. Any comment? All those,
I was just, Madam President, I was just
Go
gonna
ahead,
add that Mr. Conley served admirably as our assistant to the Personnel Board. I think he's a great opportunity to move him into this position.
any other comments? Any public comment on this nomination? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 5, move to appoint Matthew Lucas as an alternate member to the Town of McCandless Personnel Board with a term to commence January 1, 2020, and expire on December 31st, 2022.
I second the motion.
There's a motion and a second. Are there any comments from council? Any citizen comments? All those in favor indicate by, of this nomination indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'm moving to appoint Jason Moots as a member of the Town of McCandless Planning Commission for a 4-year term to commence January 1st, 2020, and expire December 31st, 2023. Jason Moots is currently a member of the Planning Commission. He served for 1 year and did an excellent job, and I would like to see him continue on.
I second that.
Okay.
I have a comment with respect to that. According to the materials, the summary that has been distributed, he was 1 day late for submitting his application. Is that not correct? If so, he's ineligible to run.
Was he?
I concur with that. My understanding is his application was received after the deadline, and I believe that that's a fatal flaw in his application process.
Why
He
did
should
he
be
come to
ineligible.
interview then?
My
Why
fault.
do we
Yeah,
allow him to
why do you
interview
invite
then?
him, yeah?
That's on me. I'll take that
Well,
responsibility.
This summary, this piece of paper right here, for those that have it, plainly says that received late on 10/1. And it's true he was interviewed, but I don't think that's a fatal flaw in my judgment. If we don't hold him to that, or anybody to that, then all bets are off. I think there's certain procedural rules that need to be enforced.
And that's on me for lack of understanding the process.
Pardon me?
That's on me for lack of understanding of the process.
Well,
I apologize.
That may be, but nonetheless, the fact remains that it was a late application.
But why didn't we talk about this when he came to the meeting or even before we made the appointment? You know, that should have been brought up then.
Yeah, it's waived, I think, if you don't bring it up at the time he's interviewing.
I mean, we allowed him to come in and interview.
Well, I'm not sure that we even had this information at the time. Until I
Right.
saw this form, I was unaware of it, and I don't think that's a fatal flaw anyway. There are certain rules, timing rules, it's common in the law, in council, and all sorts of other places. There's there's no personal animus on my part whatsoever, but I think it's, if this isn't enforced with respect to this particular individual,
Well, we did have the applications though, and the applications would indicate when they were received. That's what we're using to interview the person with.
Are you saying the timestamp on his application was a day late?
I'm saying the official piece of paper that I received, as all of you received, says that the application was received late on 10/1. Thank you.
Okay, so let's check, let's look at that. Give us 1 minute to make sure that, because his thing should be stamped to make sure that that was not
Clearly,
another error.
if this information is not correct, that
Right.
changes the situation.
Right.
I
So
agree.
let's check that just real quickly. His application,
I do understand it's awkward, but nonetheless,
No.
awkward or not, that's what it is.
this is why we have time for comment. I have all those applications here. Let me look. What was the last day to accept them?
Must have been the 31st.
I was just looking for the actual, you have the actual application there? Okay. All right, that, him being 1 day late is noted. Council can still vote for that or against that, having that into consideration. Thank you for bringing that up.
Madam Chairman, I object to that procedure. If he's late, it is totally inappropriate, in my view, to have a vote. He's either eligible to be considered or he's not eligible to be considered.
What's the parliamentary procedure on this?
Well, I mean, it's up to council to interpret its own policies, and council can reverse its policy as you sit here right now. So that's, if there is a majority of folks who want to appoint Mr. Moots, then you're able to appoint him. Again, you have to recognize that that's inconsistent with your policy, but you can go forward with the vote.
Counsel, I think that, respectfully, I disagree with that view. I'm not the solicitor, you are, but I must say that if we have rules and are just going to willy-nilly not observe them, I think that's a mistake. There's all kind of deadlines we have.
And I'm not arguing the prudence of making the determination and waiving it.
I don't think
versus not
council has the
waiving it.
power to do that. I think we have a rule, and it should be simply enforced or not enforced. If it's not enforced, then we should just abandon the other rules we have.
I guess my point is, it's up to council as a body whether or not you want to enforce that rule or modify that rule. You always have that power, and that's what's in front of us right now. So essentially, by voting, you're essentially agreeing to modify that rule in this case.
Can we make a sub-motion to decide whether to vote on this or not? A secondary motion?
It'd be easier to do that if you want to I mean, I don't know that that would be something to be done by motion. I think if you can continue your discussion and sort of try to achieve consensus and try to achieve a withdrawal of the motion. If there's consensus that way, that would be the cleanest way.
Okay.
Otherwise, if the folks who put forth the motion and second it want to proceed with it, the appropriate response from those, if there's a majority who does not want to appoint him based on that,
Right.
violation of the rule would be to vote against it.
That's what I would think too. If you were against this, then you would just vote no on the appointment of this, and that would show your agreement with supporting the policy.
Correct.
Is this correct?
Yes.
Now, pardon me, I just want to respectfully, again, disagree with that assessment. I think the rules exist for a purpose. People are on notice in terms of the temporal obligations to apply or not to apply. And I think we should not be in the business of simply deciding to do away with those temporal limitations based upon the reasons. Council, I don't think council should.
Wait a second.
Well,
He
just
came
a
in-
minute, let me finish, please. Please, may I
Just
finish? May I
run
finish?
on the mouth.
And I had hardly much more to say, other than say, I don't think well, I've already expressed my disagreement. I think the rules should stand as it is.
He comes in with an application, and we have the application. We have it in front of us when we're doing the interview. And we interview him, we bring him in there for all the trouble, all the trouble of him being there. And the letter that Mr. Our town manager sends out is, if you're approved, you'll be allowed to apply for this. So apparently, he's approved. I think that everything is there in place, that it's, if it wasn't, if he signed it on time, or sent it in on time, and we didn't see it, that may be also possible, but if he was a day late and we still approved him coming into it for an interview, we waived it. We waived it then.
I agree with you.
I agree with Mr. McKim that
And
if someone's late, they're late.
I do disagree.
So, so your objection is noted. Are there any other comments? Do you wish to withdraw the motion?
No.
Okay, so the motion stands. The motion has a second. Are there any other comments? Okay, are there any comments from citizens? Come up, please.
So,
Name?
Michael Taff, 1501 Ashbury Lane. I think that it should be noted why the application was submitted late. Was it an electronic application, and was it just a few minutes late? Is it just an 11:59 thing, or was it a handed-in form? And I think that the vote should be postponed and to figure out why it was submitted late. And if not, while I do think there should be a strict interpretation of the law, I think that one day shouldn't prevent McCandless from choosing the best applicant.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your comment. Any other comments?
Irene Caliendo, Hod Drive. A couple of things. First of all, to Mr. McKim's, what I believe are valid points, and maybe Mr. Robb needs to answer this question. If the procedure is amended or disregarded, and this individual, whom I don't know, I mean, I don't have any opinion one way or the other about the individual being nominated. But if he's approved, does that not then set a precedence for any future applicants who might be a couple of days late to then come and have a basis of argument for not having been interviewed and considered? So that's my first point. And the second point is, if I heard you correctly, sir, you said his application was received October 1st.
That's what the forms.
And I
said, yes.
think Friday, September 27th was your deadline. So it was more than one day. So that's all I...
Thank you. Any other comments? Public comment?
Well, if he was, if he
Don't
was.
cut, you cut off your wife.
Okay.
That was so rude. Come on, Pam.
And the question about the precedent.
Even I know better than that.
Pamela Wilkoskis, 8040 Edward Road. I agree with Greg in that if you all interviewed him, brought him in here and interviewed him, you waived it. You can't go back and undo his interview. He interviewed. And I don't know where that paper came from, but I would certainly look into where it came from. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, again, just for the record, I want to go, if there is such a thing here, I don't think that constitutes a waiver.
So he's 4 days late.
4 days late, it's even worse, I
Right.
suppose. Now, should it have been caught? Certainly it should have been caught. But I think the rules are still the rules, and that should be observed. If we put ourselves into the business of simply waiving willy-nilly the rules that are, time rules that are required for one thing or another, there's all sorts of. Can we go in and pay our taxes and then and plead that we're 4 or 5 days late and there should be no penalty because of that? No, I think I've made my point adequately without droning on too much about it, and it's really strictly urging that the rules be applied and we not disregard them for whatever reason.
We start banging gavels for being a few seconds late while we're talking.
I'm sorry, you only get one comment.
I had time.
They don't let you do it like that.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Right there, we
It's
just
not
enforced a
collective.
rule.
Sorry.
That's why we should. That's why we should.
Okay, all right. Any other comments? Okay, there is a motion, there is a second on the floor. I believe we need to vote on this motion. You can express your opinion in the motion. The motion is to appoint Jason Moots. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Secretary, roll call vote?
Ward number 2,
Nay.
Ward number 3,
Nay.
Ward number 5,
Aye.
Ward number 6,
Aye.
Ward number 7,
Nay.
Ward number
Nay. Motion fails. Is there another motion to appoint a member for Planning Commission?
Move to appoint Brendan O'Donnell as a member of the Town of McCandless Planning Commission for a 4-year term to commence January 1st, 2020, and expire December 31st, 2023.
Second?
There's a motion, a second. Any comment from council? Any citizen comment? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'm sorry. Move to appoint Greg Wakakis as a member of Town of McCandless Planning Commission for a 4-year term to commence January 7th, 2020, and expire December 31st, 2023.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Hearing none, the motion fails. Is there another motion for a member for the Planning Commission?
Motion to appoint Jonathan Hall as a member of the Town of McCandless Planning Commission for a 4-year term to commence January 1st, 2020, and expire December 31st, 2023.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Is there any comment from council? Any comment from any citizens? There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Move to adopt resolution number 29 of 2019 series, a resolution appointing Greg Quachek as a member to the Town of McCandless Zoning Hearing Board for a 3-year term to commence January 1st, 2020, expire on December 31st, 2022.
Second?
There's been a motion and a second. Any comments from anyone on council? Any comments from any citizens? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam President, I move to appoint Norman Vogler as a member of the McCandless Uniform Construction, Fire, and Property Maintenance Code Appeals Board for a 4-year term to commence on January 1st, 2020, and expire on December 31st, 2023.
Second?
There's been a motion and a second. Any comment from council? Any comment from any citizens? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Services Committee.
Madam President, I move to appoint Anchor Puri as a member of the McCandless Franklin Park Ambulance Authority for a 5-year term to commence January 1st, 2020, and expire on December 31st, 2024. This is to fill the position left vacant by Dr. Berkey.
Second.
Are there any comments from council?
I would just like to add that I think it adds some real strength to our authority to have physicians representing both major healthcare providers in our town. And I think that provides a great balance for our authority.
Any other comments from council? Any comments from any citizens? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam President, I move to appoint Marcia Caliendo to fill an unexpired term as a member of the McCandless Franklin Park Ambulance Authority, effective immediately through December 31st, 2020.
Second?
There's a motion and a host of seconds. Any comments from council?
Madam President, I would like to say that I very much look forward to Marcia's participation on that board. Her tenacity and her willingness to participate, her enthusiasm will be a tremendous addition to that board. And I am pleased to make that nomination tonight.
If I may very briefly add, I was impressed with Marcia's resume as well, and I think she's an excellent addition to the, assuming she's elected here in a few moments, to this board.
Any other comments? Any comments from any citizens?
Good choice.
Spoken in an unbiased way. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Persistence wins the day. Public Works Committee.
I do, yes. Go ahead. Sure. Madam President, I move to appoint Thomas Mursky as a member of the McCandless Township Sanitary Authority for a 5-year term to commence January 1st, 2020, and expire December 31st, 2024.
Second.
that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any comments?
Madam President, I would just say on behalf of Mr. Mursky, he brings to this board a wealth of environmental knowledge, having worked for nearly 30 years for the EPA, and we are excited to have him participate on behalf of our town.
Any other comments from council? Any comments from any citizens? All those in favor of this appointment indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I have said before, and I must repeat myself, and that is, I continue to be so impressed with the caliber of the individuals in our community who are willing to volunteer their talents and their services and their time to the town. And I appreciate all the applicants volunteering to do that. Thank you. Public Safety Committee.
Move to adopt ordinance number 1492, an ordinance designating multi-way stop signs at the intersection of State Route 470 Ingomar Road and Ingomar Heights Road at West Ingomar Road and Highland Road. This creates a 4-way stop at the intersection where we already have a 4-way stop.
I second the motion.
It's already there.
Any comments from council?
This is being done so that we can enforce that sign that's already there.
I also did get a complaint from someone that says that there's still a sign on one
Yes,
of
I
the
saw
other
that.
3 stop signs that needs to.
That says opposing traffic
Is it
doesn't
down?
stop.
I told Mark that it should come down. It actually needed to come down.
Now, in
instead.
fairness, from what I've heard, opposing traffic is not always stopping yet. So, I mean, while they should come down, I don't know how.
So it should say opposing traffic may not stop.
Yes.
Do we have a sign like that? Maureen?
And put a little sticker over that.
Be aware, it could happen.
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments about the stop? Any citizen comments about that stop? Okay. Oh, comment. I feel it coming.
Paul Heckman, Abbey Lane. I know in some places I've seen, and I think it's been born of this situation, they have the stop signs that have, especially for that lane that doesn't think they have to stop, the lighted stop sign that makes it much harder to not see that it's meant for you. Unlike yield signs that apparently no one understands. I don't, if the county is responsible for this sign, I don't know if the county can be persuaded that because of the very, very long-term ingrained, come around that corner and go like the devil through the intersection, that an additional warning, even if it's a stop sign, ahead sign.
There is
They,
one.
they did post all of the warning signs ahead.
Oh, okay.
And there is I can't remember whether it's 30-day or 45-day
45.
flashing light
45.
on the sign right now.
Okay, good. I've not had the pleasure of coming through the intersection
It's there.
at this point in time, but okay, that's good to hear, because, yeah, knowing how fast some people have come through there would not be good.
Still proceed with caution, please. Please, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion for the new business?
Move to adopt resolution number 30 of the 2019 series, a resolution authorizing the submission of an application for a traffic signal on Cumberland Road. This application is for the crossing and flashing pedestrian signal at the school.
I second the motion.
Any comments from council? Okay, any citizen comments? All right, hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. This is the time for public comment that, up until this point, public comment was based on the motion that was on the floor. So this is the public comment free for all time. So if you have any comments that you would like to make about anything on the agenda or not on the agenda, we're here to hear you. Okay. Is there a move to reconvene this meeting at 6:30 on December 9th, 2019?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting will continue to December 9th, 2019. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, Bruce.